Gather round for the Oke Farm Pondcast with Doug Davis.
All right. It's been a while since you and I've done this.
It has been a while.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day as I was thinking about getting together with you, and I've lost track of all the things that we've talked about. Mm-hmm. But there's been one thing that you and I've touched on recently that I think is worth just spending some time exploring it together. And I'm not going to tell you what it is yet.
Okay.
I'm going to start it off by a quick story. So a number of years ago, I did a development, a conservation-based development just outside of Savannah, Georgia. And when folks would come, the arrival sequence was to come down this long country road, and they were greeted by just, ancient oak trees everywhere. And the yards were filled with magnolia trees and oak trees. It was absolutely breathtaking. And I would, kind of like what we do here with the potluck, I would do a little bit different there. But I would meet with all of the new residents. This was a much larger development. And I would do a meeting with them probably once every 45 to 60 days with all the new owners. And I would go around and introduce myself and talk about a little bit about the vision behind the project. And without fail, the vast number of people, when I asked them what drew them to the project, almost without exception would say specifically the trees, nature, the way that I felt when I drove into the project. And that was not surprising at all. And obviously we have spent a lot of time talking about kind of the way that we develop here at the farm and the ethos behind the conservation-based planning and deliberate layout based on ecosystems and biodiversity. But the reason I share that story is if you think about a coin, that's the positive side, right? The head side of a coin. Mm-hmm. But there's, you don't go through life without realizing that there's always a tension with anything, right? And my wife likes to describe it as, any decision has both good and bad consequences. Mm-hmm. And so the beauty, the passion, the praise of the trees and the environment is what compelled these folks to live here. But here's the but in times of prolonged rainfall or in times whenever the deer and the hogs became a little bit too friendly, there would be a feeling of frustration by these same people that are enamored by and drawn to this natural environment. When that environment encroached upon them in a way that wasn't comfortable or wasn't convenient, what was a beautiful thing suddenly became a pestilent, and so I've spent my career trying my best, and I don't always do the best job, admittedly, of trying to navigate these tensions, right? And so as the longest full-time resident here, you and Jenny have navigated that with me a multitude of times. Yeah. And so I thought what might be kind of fun today is just spend a few minutes talking about what we've experienced out here at the farm. And look, I recognize that it's easy in my anecdote to share that the fun side of it, the positive side of it, is that makes sense. And the other side of it, I don't want to villainize either, because the other side of it is like it's like a real thing. Yeah. Like, so the tension, it's not that one's good and one's bad. It's just that they both exist on a continuum, and it's how number one, identifying that they do exist and acknowledging it. Yeah. So it'd be fun to kind of just talk about that, but then also maybe to think through how that you and Jenny have lived and mitigated those tensions as well. I can think of a couple of examples that come to my mind immediately, but I want to see if you share them first.
Okay.
So anyway, what do you think? Is that a good idea?
That's a great idea.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
I think it could be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think before I start, I just want to reflect back a moment because it has been a while since you and I have sat down. But for those that don't know, I produce and edit these videos, so I'm sitting in that chair right there and have been witness to all the amazing conversations that have taken place since I was in this chair.
Yeah.
Just some of the recent examples of some of our residents like Christy and Ryan and Natasha. And we had Marlon and Job, some really fascinating voices of people who have been familiar with the
you and Jenny.
the farm. Yeah. And so, now we're 15 episodes into this experiment, which when we started, we're like, we don't know if this will be worthwhile or not. I'm now running into people, who have listened, and I feel like we're starting to get traction, and that's rewarding. And, we're 15 episodes in, and we have never uttered these words. I've never heard you utter these words, but we've never asked for people to subscribe and share it with other people.
Right.
And, this channel is not monetized, has no plans for it to be monetized, so it's not to share it so that we can generate revenue out of this. It's so that people can hear these stories. And that's what's really fascinating as I look back now over the last, 14 episodes prior to this one. It is starting to be a really nice archive of people who are involved in this project. Getting to memorialize these voices in a really meaningful way. And so,
well said.
I just want to acknowledge that. Now to your invitation to talk about, what maybe I would say are sort of the yin and the yang of living here at the farm, and it's a timely conversation because here we are. Really getting into the middle of the summer,
right?
And seeing some extreme conditions out there, and it wasn't but probably the last time I sat in this chair. Remember, we were talking about the drought conditions.
Forest fires. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And now in 6 weeks, something I've never done in my life is I actually look at rainfall totals. I monitor that website. And about 2 months ago, we were somewhere around 15 inches below annual average. Okay. Just calendar year.
Calendar year. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, calendar year, and now we've caught up. We've caught up.
6 weeks.
Yeah, we've caught up, and we're actually slightly ahead of it.
So not only did we make up for the 15 inches, but whatever would have otherwise been expected this time of year, we've also done that.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, and we see that though. That can be frustrating for it's for me, on the building side, on the farming side, for the So, anyways, keep going with that.
So we went from the dust and the firefight or the wildfire issue to now the mud and the puddling of water and insects that come out of the water. But here's what I'll say. As I've shared before, and as you know, one of the farm chores that I like to get involved with is mowing. I love, after spending hours editing a video or working on a computer, it's really nice for me to get outdoors. And one of the easiest ways to do that and to help the team is to hop on a mower and mow. And the grass is growing now with all the rainfall that we've had. There's a lot to keep up with, and so I was out earlier this week helping the team get the farm looking really good for an event that we had earlier this week, and the conditions were tough. Like I suffer from seasonal allergies, usually not too bad. They've been exacerbated lately here in the last week. Some kind of grass is growing that's bothering me. The gnats are pretty intense right now. We haven't been visited by the dragonfly armada yet to come in and take care of them.
They will.
And
let's be clear for folks listening who may be from the coastal isles or whatever else.
We're not as bad as the coast.
We're talking about non-biting gnats. Not their brothers and sisters, the sand gnats, which will are
Right,
miserable.
right, and I will to give it context. We've been traveling around a little bit, different parts of Florida, out to the coast.
Yeah.
It's bad everywhere.
It's bad
It's
everywhere.
not like we're getting any kind of like special conditions here. It's the insects are sort of bad everywhere, and so, it was like all these variables were making what is normally a very enjoyable experience for me not so enjoyable, But one, there's a sense of satisfaction the immediate gratification that you get from doing any sort of landscaping. So that's one of the things that I like about it. There's some level of therapy involved in it for me.
Yeah.
But it's also just getting out and working. And when you come inside after that, that ice cold glass of lemonade or whatever it is afterwards, it's like, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that. It's the yin and the yang. So that's a sort of like a small experience of I think, touches on what you're...
Yeah, for sure.
What you're...
I describe it to people, and again, apologize if I've said this before, but I mean, look, this does come up with tours, whether it's the heat and the gnats or whatever else. And one of the ways I like to describe it, and I like to think about this, and I'd love to, maybe you can share maybe how this hits you, is, I mean, all of us, if we're honest, whether it's, I know even me, I work on a farm. I mean, my kids tease that I'm a farmer, but I spend so much time in the digital world, on the computer, whether it's answering emails. I mean, it doesn't matter, building financial models. It does not matter. We and I think I can speak for most modern day people, we spend way more time than we would like to admit glued to a screen. And most of the time when you're doing that, you're inside in artificial lights. And so, we're experiencing life in a way that was really not consistent with the way that we were meant to experience life. And so I think if we're honest, we have come to fold into this comfortable numb that comes from being in an artificially lit and artificially conditioned, artificially entertained, so that we're constantly being bombarded with, dopamine from what we're seeing. And so I think if we're honest with ourselves, we probably exist largely in a status that's not consistent with the way our bodies were either made, and certainly inconsistent with the way that we're going to thrive. And so I say all that to say is that's kind of the ecosystem that many of us live in. And so if you've adopted that as your mantra, that I'm going to lean into the fact that I'm going to be in this digital, conditioned artificial realm, then the inconveniences of being outside around gnats or in heat, or, walking through mud puddles, or, picking your own food, like those represent challenges to your everyday life that you have become and normalized. And so I'm getting way too long. I immediately regret how long I've taken this, but nonetheless, I love to share with people that what we try to do here at the farm is we're not obliterating that world, but we're enhancing that world by reconnecting with the natural world, reconnecting with nature, and experiencing these cycles, whether they're the cold cycles and the dry cycles, or the hot and the wet cycles. Like, we're reintroducing a rhythm to our life that we've really lost.
For sure.
And so, you can't expect to really enjoy if you haven't had a bout of being either disappointed or disenchanted or uncomfortable. And like all of these things have to exist on a continuum. And so, I love the farm because for me, it's about reinstituting these patterns in my life, not walking away from all the other ones, but building a much more robust life. Does that make sense?
It does. And I really like the word that you used, enhance, because that, as soon as you said that, I was like, yeah, that to me is a good way to describe how you can still, you can still be connected.
Right.
You can still work if you have a remote job. Even if you don't have a remote job, if you have to travel here somewhere and go to a place of employment, returning back to the farm, the invitation to get outdoors is so strong when you live here at the farm, right? I mean, it's so easy to get where, and I think I've mentioned this before, like it's easier for me to get outdoors and be outside today for whatever reason than it was when I lived in a more suburban area, neighborhoods, etc. And there's something deep inside that resonates when you're, at least for me, when I'm outside. When I'm enjoying God's creation, the way you phrased it is you talked about our bodies. It's better for our bodies to be outside. I think there's absolutely a spiritual element to it too. I mean, I think it helps us get connected in whichever way we feel comfortable doing that, with something that's much greater than us, which also connects us to one another. I think in ways that are very meaningful. Jenny and I recently took a trip to Tampa. Haven't been there in a long time. We were there for a family event. And, we stayed in a hotel that was kind of in Midtown. And it was this hotel that was attached to this, entertainment and shopping area. So, I mean, it was full blown sensory overload from the moment that we got there. And, oh gosh, man, I felt so out of rhythm. It's the first time that I've stayed in a city in a long time, and I wouldn't consider where we moved from the city. I mean, this was
downtown Tampa.
Yeah, and it was, and just observing, people who lived there. We went for a really nice walk along the Riverwalk in downtown Tampa. The following morning, and we saw a Pilates class with about 100 people on it and people exercising. And so clearly there are ways to, no matter where you are, right, to find that. But for me, it wasn't until we got 35, 40 miles outside of city limits and I started seeing rolling hills again, that, I had that physical feeling of my blood pressure lowering. I was like,
we hear that a
it's
lot.
just, And so there's absolutely something to it, and I think our new residents express the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So let me. Something popped in my mind while you were talking. So I'm getting this kind of this mental image. You there was a time when you were commuting from the farm to Jacksonville, and so I wanted to ask you, what was it like to be in Jacksonville, to come down 121, turn on the refuge road, but then to turn on the dirt road that came into the farm? Talk to me, because some people, we have had people ask, would you consider paving the dirt road to the farm, and, or why is it not paved and everything else? And so I know you and I've had brief conversations about this before, but talk to me just about what does that do to you when you pull off the pavement onto the dirt?
Well, one, the first thing that you notice is the beautiful natural setting of the Georgia pines. And we recently had some work done in that area to clear out some of the underbrush for fire prevention. And so you can actually see a little bit deeper into that area. And so visually, the first thing that you experience is something very beautiful, a beautiful natural setting. Physically, I just mentioned it. There's a palpable lowering of my blood pressure. When that's what I experience. And I would be firmly against ever paving that road, even if the farm had the ability to influence it. Right. I love that it's a dirt road that has to be maintained.
Yeah.
When it's dry, it's dusty
Yeah.
and firm. When it's wet, it gets a little muddy.
Yeah.
There's some run out places.
Yeah.
It gets a little bumpy. It's almost like speed bumps. It forces you to slow down if you're driving a car. You can't fly through there.
Exactly.
So I like that too.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, it forces you to slow down. And then as you make the turn to the west, you come out of the pines, and of course you have the pasture on your left. But then you open up into this 180-degree horizon where you can see the sky, you can see our animal pastures, our livestock pastures, you can see the cabins starting to just pop up a little bit on the horizon.
The windmill.
And the windmill framing everything in a way that I can't describe it any other way. For me, now being here almost 2 years, as home. I'm home.
Yeah.
And, like I said, we've done some travel here recently. It's nice to travel and see other places, but man, I love that feeling of coming down that dirt road and coming home and knowing that I'm back at the farm.
Right.
And so, I could go on and on.
Those
are just some of it's an emotional response.
Right.
It's not just a physical response, it's an emotional response too.
Yeah.
And I love that my address is at the end of a dirt road.
Yeah, I love it. So, when I think about that illustration of the dirt road, kind of juxtaposed against the tension overarching thing that we're talking about, I hinted at the fact that, if one was making a judgment, one may say one is good and one is bad. Mm-hmm. The pros are good, mm-hmm. the cons are bad. If one, elects not to be judgmental, but to observe, mm-hmm. to be curious, and to allow gratefulness to come into them, mm-hmm. I love this picture of us collectively as the farm owners, the farm neighbors, the farm community, the farm brothers and sisters. I love the fact that everyone at the farm, as opposed to the other place I was talking about, mm-hmm. has made the conscious decision, and maybe it's natural to the personalities, maybe it's something that was learned by being out here mm-hmm. and around other owners, but it's like, rather than making the judgment, the side of the tension continuum here is good, this other side is bad, it feels like that what I'm experiencing from you is largely experienced by everyone else. And so talk with me about, what does it take? What is either the mental, the emotional, the spiritual component that enables one person to see the beauty in the dirt road and the other person to see the cons of the aggravation of the dirt road? Because I think that's important.
Yeah.
And certainly it's a life skill that transcends the farm, but in the context of today's discussion, talk to me about not only for you, but what you see in other people as well.
Yeah. I think it's best illustrated for me in having a close tie to my own preferences, right? Like, if I'm prioritizing my preferences, no matter what it is, no matter what it's regarding, I've found that creates more suffering, right? Because we just don't get what we want in life, right? Yeah. And if I have to construct a world where I'm only going to experience joy and happiness if I get all my preferences met, I'm going to fail. Yeah. Like 98, maybe 99% of the time. 1%, 2% of the time, everything lines up, and so
you can only control what you can control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this has been, this has just been personal journey for me. There's a lot of great wisdom teachers out there, mm-hmm. And what I've heard from them and what I've incorporated into my own life is to practice open-mindedness, mm-hmm. and to release my preference to having conditions set a certain way. And what happens is, the more I release my preferences, the greater my ability to experience joy and happiness, or for me, it's just peace and serenity.
Right.
Right. I don't even need to have the high highs. It's just that, if I can be happy with the moment as it is presented to me as a gift.
Yeah.
Every moment is a gift,
Yeah.
right? Like if I can just be happy with whatever it is. It's raining. It's a drought. It's cold. It's hot. There's bugs, there's not bugs, like doesn't matter, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If I'm open-minded to that experience,
Yeah.
then what I found is my quality of life has just been exponentially better. Jenny has been on that same journey together, and it's not like we don't have our challenges with it. Sure. There's certain times where, I have a very strong preference about something, and I want it to be a certain way, and I think that, so how does that translate to the other residents that have moved in? As I'm thinking through everyone has come here with an open mind, an open mind to the experience. One, there was an appetite or a thirst for something. They were longing for something that they couldn't find from wherever they came from, whether that be from Jacksonville, whether it be from California, no matter where it is. There was a thirst for something better, something different. I won't even use better or worse. Something different, right? And they held an open-mindedness to the experience, and then got here and just allowed themselves to experience it. And I think everyone has had that same experience. That there's hardships, but if I'm open-minded to it, gosh, what a much greater fulfilling life there's to be had. Yeah. And that doesn't just happen at the farm,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
it happens anywhere.
For sure.
I think the farm creates an environment that invites people to explore that for themselves.
Right.
Because you are going to have, one, there's the ability to get outside in nature. With nature comes all kinds of extremes. And there's lots of opportunities for there was lots of opportunities for personal growth for me when I came out here.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful for it.
Maybe to kind of wrap up the conversation. By the way, that was beautiful. That was obviously everything that we're talking about is just real time. So I love the way you answered that. That was inspiring. Maybe to kind of bring it all back around, while you were chatting about preferences and the obstacle to us getting our preferences, I had this vision of child. Maybe it's not a child in particular, but I mean, for those people listening, I mean, it could be a child or it could be a grandchild or whatever else. And I was just thinking about what a beautiful opportunity the farm is for children, for the children of the owners here, for grandchildren, and for those who would come to visit, and just thinking about how that when they experience what we're talking about, the tension, if you indulge me for a minute, if they're in the and I know this is probably an old reference, but a Game Boy or whatever else they're doing, and that's their reality. I just have this vision of them coming out here and getting hot and getting bit by bugs and being frustrated in the beginning. But then slowly but surely, it's like their eyes begin to open at the world as it truly exists, and they become more enthralled with the frogs and the wild blackberries. And it's like they begin to accidentally discover a whole new world that they never even knew about. And the pieces of it that are more suffering oriented cause them to maybe experience something, some level. And again, suffering can be acknowledged on all kinds of levels.
Right.
But if you look at it in just their little world, like, I think it takes some of that for them to now begin to understand gratitude. Yeah. And so it's like this beautiful, the same way we're growing things out here at the farm, it's like the experiences here are significant enough to where they cause a reaction, but they're not so significant that they can upend your life. Yeah. And so I'm just thinking, when you were talking about that, I was just visualizing some kids or grandkids playing around out here and seeing how their lives or attitudes emotionally, physically begin to expand. It's it's really exciting.
Yeah. I'd just like to add to that a little bit because it's so important. When we grew up, right, like the predominant child development theory was resilience. You wanted your kids to grow up being resilient, right? And there wasn't the concern of safety and security back then.
Right.
We grew up outdoors, no helmets, catching tadpoles,
there were no water bottles,
right.
No, nothing.
And somewhere around the, 80s, 90s, child development got hijacked by, this overwhelming concern for safety and security. And we started to build cocoons around our kids. And there were some legitimate, safety issues that needed to be addressed. But the farm allows for kids to grow up outdoors and to build resilience.
Yeah.
I think resilience is a far greater attribute than safety or security.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, because you're always, at some point when they go, they're going to be in an unsafe situation.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And so we've got some residents who have kids and have experienced, growing up and developing here on the farm. And I mean, I know from their experience, they love it here.
Yeah.
They absolutely love it here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that was fun. Good discussion.
Yeah.
Really good discussion. Thank you for bringing it. Man.
Yeah.
I like that. So,
good to be back.
So what is your one word close for today? I think I know what it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm going to say resilient.
I knew you were going there. Resilience and you're out. I'm going to say tension and I'm out. Thank you, my man.
All right. Thanks.